is lawful to heal on Shabbat? Who were these guys who were asking him, do you think? Probably not Pharisees. They're probably priests. Because only the Pharisees agree with the Mishnah and the Talmud, right? So the Pharisees would have said, hey, the Pharisees should say it is legal, right? Because the Talmud and the Mishnah say that. The guys who don't believe that are the priests, the Sadducees. So we don't know. I mean, by the way, the Pharisees also challenged him about this, which is interesting. Isn't it interesting? Mm-hmm. Why do you think they challenge him based on the law?
They want a reason to kill him.
Well, that's maybe true, but I think that's too simplistic. Why do you think they always went after him about the law? What is his clarion call? The law. Well, the law. The law is his clarion call. So if a guy is sitting there and his whole argument is the law, where are you going to attack? About the law. Because he has not acknowledged the Mishnah. I mean, he has tacitly acknowledged the Mishnah and the Talmud. But to do what? To kind of pound him a little bit, right? What's really funny is watch what he does. I just love this. Because just think of what is going on here culturally, what is going on here intellectually. He said to them, if any of you has a sheep and it falls into a pit on the Shabbat, will you not take a hold and lift it out? Why did he use this image? Well, okay. Those are great euphemistic imagery you're pulling out of John, right? But that's from John, which is a very euphemistic book, even though it's in Greek. But let's just take this very concretely. The reason he uses this image is because this is the image that the Mishnah uses. If you read the Mishnah and the Talmud, the Mishnah says this example. Your sheep falls into a pit on a Shabbat. And it says, what can you do? Pull it out. So he uses this image. And by the way, I think Leviticus uses a similar image. In any case, talks about it. This is a segue thing, but if Jesus Christ uses the Mishnah and the Talmud, don't you think that Christians should kind of study those documents? At least know something about them? I just bring that up. He goes on, how much more valuable is a man than a sheep? Therefore it is lawful to do good on the Shabbat. And by the way, when he says it is lawful to do good on the Shabbat, that is the conclusion of the Talmudic argument, right, of the Talmud. So he's slamming it in their faces. I love this. He said to the man, stretch out your hand. He stretched it out and restored sound as the other. And this is, not seen as curing or healing, not kicking out demons, right? They didn't know what healing was. This is healing in the sense of this is restorative action. And you talk about a powerful restorative action. If somebody came in here and they had like a totally wrenched up arm, and all of a sudden it became right, that'd be hard to hide. Anyway, that's kind of a different than some of the shows you see on TV, and somebody says I haven't walked in 20 years, and this guy goes walk, and he jumps up, and you wonder, well, was he really? But anyway, so Jesus is using his own knowledge about him, and it goes on to say that the Pharisees then plotted how they might kill Jesus. Now, why would they want to plot to see how they might kill Jesus? He just caught them in a lie, in the biggest lie that you could make, because they tried to attack him with the law, and he uses the Mishnah and Talmud to slam him. So, you talk about an embarrassment. And remember, this is an Oriental culture. So in an Oriental culture, do people talk about what they don't like? No.
They say face.
And Jesus made them lose face.
He made them lose face. And remember, we can never get away from this. Remember, what did Jesus do when John was captured? He went into the teeth of the enemy. How was Jesus described when that occurred in the prophecies? As a warrior. John was described as a warrior. Do wimpy characters and wimpy people cause others to absolutely lose face and devastate them in an intellectual platform? All right? I just want to point this out. Our image of Jesus as the wimpy guy from Galilee, the limited intellectual that tells sayings, right, is really opposed, because what we have here is we have a Greek scholar who is a scholar of the Mishnah and the Talmud, who is a scholar of the law, who basically is using Greek rational thought and using Greek arguments and irony and paradox to basically take his enemies down bit by bit and piece by piece to the point where they want to kill him. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think I've had anybody that wanted to kill me because I did this.
Well, he's a big, let's face it, he's a big threat to their whole power structure.
Well, whether he's a big threat to the power structure now or not, I think he is, and I think he's giving imagery that way. I mean, when you call yourself God and you say you're the Messiah, that's a big deal. So, you know, let's get away from this idea that Jesus is a wimpy dude. You know, let's begin to see him historically and culturally as he is, because he is definitely not a wimpy guy.
Lionel,
yeah.
His proclamation that he was God, is that not a violation of the law?
Not unless he is.
Well, I understand, but in their defense,
the Talmud says this, and this is a beautiful thing in the Mishnah. I think I've told it to you before. The Mishnah says, if God himself came down to the scholars, to the Sanhedrin and scholars of Israel, and said, I am changing the law, then they would laugh in his face. Because God cannot change his law. It's endued in the creation. So, based on that, if it really, you know, if God came down and tried to change the law, and that's the point, because Matthew's point is, does Jesus ever change the law? No. Fulfill is the wrong word, because that's our translation. He fills it up to completeness. He does not change it, he fills it up to completeness. That's the Greek word. So, you know, I don't know. It's just, Jesus is really an antagonistic character in lots of ways. And we want to see him as a...
is Christ the only one in history to profess that he was the Messiah prior to him?
Oh, no.
So, I
mean,
mean,
many others did, but there is no record that they did, for example, miracles, you know, or did any other things. And by the way, you know, one of the proof texts that is always there is, okay, let's say we didn't have any of the New Testament documents at all. We had no knowledge of, you know, historically, whatever. Something happened in 33 AD. Something happened that was cataclysmic, that changed the world. And whatever that happening was centered around this guy, Jesus. We have documents that tell us, eyewitness accounts, what happened. And we prove the veracity of those documents. So therefore, whatever happened had to be pretty grandiose. And by the way, the documents we have point to a very, very spectacular thing. No one in the history of the world, no one had resurrected from the dead. You know, we have records like, for example, that boy that, who was it, Ezekiel or, not Ezekiel, one of the prophets of Israel, Elijah, remember? But, you know, the guy, you know, there's no proof that he was dead. It just, he was not moving. And basically he, you know, looks like he did respiratory, you know, whatever on him, or, you know, it was a miracle that he was healed. But, you know, Lazarus was resurrected by Christ, who was God. The little girl was brought back from death by Jesus, who claims to be God. So we got a guy here that's claiming to be God the Messiah, and for my mind, he kind of looks like a God the Messiah. What do you say? I don't know. If somebody came in here raising the dead, I'd be like, well, that's pretty tough, right? So anyway, let's see. Jesus withdrew because they were going to kill him. Many followed him, and he healed their sick, warning them not to tell who he was. Now remember, it's no heal. He didn't heal sick. He took out demons. He basically cured them from pure and cleanliness. So, but he warned them not to tell who he was. This was to fulfill what it was said to the prophet Isaiah. Here's my servant I've chosen, the one I love, whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will proclaim justice to the nations. He will not quarrel or cry out. No one will hear his voice in the streets. This is interesting. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out till it leads justice to victory. In his name the nations will put their hope. So you notice that Jesus is doing all these things, but it's not seeming to cause a huge ruckus in the political sphere yet. So this is alluding to that, I think. The quote is to show the authoritative truth of Jesus and the messianic claims. But in any case, 22, they brought to him demon-possessed man who was blind and mute. And Jesus healed him, well, really not healed him, but threw out the demon. So, you know, what we're getting is we're getting direct and quoted examples that are from the Septuagint. And this is what's important, because the Greek Septuagint is being used, like I said, direct quotes from the Septuagint to show direct examples. Because remember it said the mute and those who are dumb, you know, will be able to speak. So we're seeing direct quote, direct example, direct quote, direct example. This is what you do when you write a thesis, because this is a thesis. It's a logos to tell us thesis. So guess what it says next? 23. All the people were astonished and said, "Could this be the son of David?" Could this be the son of David? The son of David is a euphemism for, could this be the Messiah? So, this is a direct response to Matthew's claims. Do you see how Matthew set this up? I've got claims by Jesus, I've got the discourses, I've got proof text. I'm seeing him do these demon things, do these things against the gods of the Greeks, the pure, do this thing against cleanliness, right? Bang, 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 bang. Do this thing against Pharisees, state the law. Then I have quotes, directly from Septuagint, that supports exactly what it is. Then I have another example that supports exactly what the quote was. And then what do? I have a proclamation. The people said, "Could this be the son of David?" This is an ironic statement, an intentional, not ironic statement, that's not right. It's an intentional statement that's an allusion, that's a foreshadowing that specifically Matthew is putting in your mind. Because he is, does he want to make a conclusion? No. It's a logos to telos argument, right? Will he ever give you a conclusion? No. What is he trying to do?
Get you to draw your own conclusion.
Get you to draw your own conclusion. It's a beautiful Greek logos to telos. That's the point. So look what it says. The Pharisees heard this. They said, "It is only by Beelzebub, the prince of demons, this fellow drives out demons." Do you remember this? Jesus already preemptively addressed this 2 times. So is it surprising this suddenly comes up? It's not a prophecy. Jesus already told them twice. He told them in Matthew 9. When they were going out, a man who was demon-possessed could not talk, koptos, hear or speak, was brought to Jesus. And the demon was driven out. Well, we just had a demon driven out, right? From a mute and a deaf man. The same thing. And he said, the crowd was amazed. He said, "Nothing like this has ever been seen." And then again, we have the Pharisees said in 34, Matthew 9:34, "It's by the prince of demons he drives out demons." And before that in 10 we had, he says, "It is better the student be like the teacher, the servant like the master. If the head of the household has been called Beelzebub, how much more the members of his household?" This was before that. So Jesus preemptively already told you. So he's, you know, these arguments are very interweaving and they're very powerful. Because if you got the first 2, and then all of a sudden the Pharisees say, "Well, it's by Beelzebub that he does this." He's already addressed it. What does it make the Pharisees look like? Yeah. You know, Matthew is putting together, you know, I think this is a beautiful rational argument. Anyway, it goes on. Let's see, Matthew 12. Matthew 12, again. "Every kingdom divided against itself, 25, it will be ruined, every city and household. If Satan drives out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then can his kingdom stand? And if I drive out demons by Beelzebub, by whom do your own people drive them out?" Do you see the logic in this argument? What is he using? Greek logos to tell us rational argument. Do you see the comparison of the D-rash argument? The D-rash argument that is not logical, that is the basis for the Jewistic thought. The Jewistic thought in a D-rash argument. In a D-rash argument, could Satan or Beelzebub, the god of the flies, drive out, and by the way, this is a joke. Jesus Christ